especially if you're not an African American.
Right.
So you're looking at this guy, you know, here's a guy who's trying to give a compliment, but what he said has maybe offended some people. So people had reached out to us, and that's what we do at 8 o'clock here on CNN. It's called Out in the Open. We bring things out in the open that make people hold a mirror to themselves and sometimes wonder about things like this. So that's why I called them.
Here's what I don't, where I'm not getting from this, because you're in New York City. I've lived in New York City. As a matter of fact, we work together there. O'Reilly lives in New York City, one of the most diverse places on earth, and you would think, why is he shocked that an African-American restaurant, people aren't, you know, acting out of context as they should be acting in a restaurant?
That's the question. Let me read it again to you and to the viewers. I couldn't get over the fact that there was no difference between Sylvia's restaurant and other restaurants in New York City. I mean, the people there, they were exactly acting the same, even though it's run by black, primarily black patronship. He goes on to say, I think black Americans are starting to think for themselves. Here's the point, and this is what we talked about last night when I had Roland Martin on. What's wrong with a white guy doing social commentary on somebody else's race? And on the one hand, he's brave enough to do it. On the other hand, he's trying to be real honest about it.
And he's trying to, it's meant to be a compliment.
It's meant to be a compliment, but it doesn't. As a matter of fact, every African-American that I've talked to since this, and my God, have I gotten a bevy of phone calls on this, inside and outside the business, people are actually offended. They think, they call this, and you would know, they call this a subtle type of racism. It's not the hit you over the head with a hammer type. It's the velvet glove type. And that's what I tried to talk to Bill about. He called back yesterday, and we got on the phone, and he didn't want any part of it. He said, hey, Rick, look. I mean, he was screaming the entire conversation.
Really?
Yeah, he was not happy with me. I said, hey, I'm a huge fan, Bill, and I've been watching you for years. And by the way, just finished reading a book about you. He just wanted to let me know. He said, look, to be fair now, this is what he says. He said, it was a totally benign conversation. There was absolutely no racist intent. And I agree with him, by the way. I don't think there was.
Yeah.
And he goes on to say that, look, we didn't get any complaints at my radio stations. But, you know, obviously, you know, that may have to do with his audience as well.
And, you know, and the reason that we do this and we talk about it's been in the news a lot lately, especially when you talk about Imus. And in the beginning, Imus didn't get that much of controversy until people started to hear those comments, right? And they started to bubble to the surface. But here's the thing also. He was speaking with another commentator who was on Fox, and they started talking about rap music. And he said, you know, in the restaurant, I didn't hear anybody saying, you know, I want some MF-er this or that. And so it wasn't like, why aren't people finding this a little bit on
I see what you're saying is, and this is an interesting point that you're raising, is if his expectation as a white American is that anytime he goes into a black establishment, he should be surprised that people don't have their underwear sticking out of their pants and they're not running around cursing, well, let's quote him directly, to be fair. Let's say what he said. Let's not say what we think he said. Here we go. There wasn't one person in Sylvia's, this is a direct quote, who was screaming MF-er. I want more iced tea. You know what I mean? Everybody was like, it was like going into an Italian restaurant in an all-white suburb, in a sense that people were sitting there and they were ordering and just having fun. So what my African-American friends and associates have told me since we aired this story last night is that they were insulted that a man of his experience and his age would for the first time realize that there are groups of African Americans who gather in places in America and have civilized meetings. And that's what they say, you know.
And
that's why this makes it an interesting conversation. This is the kind of conversation all Americans should have because, you know, look, let's be honest. We all have an uncle who comes to parties at our house, invited either by our mom or our dad, who will occasionally say things like this.
Yeah.
And they may not have a negative bone in their body, but when they say it, it takes that double take when you're walking away and you go, did he just say that?
Yeah, yeah, and you know, the weird thing is listening to all of this and talking to people, not that I'm in defense of rap or hip-hop or what have you, but everything from the culture does not have to be associated with that. We don't associate everything from white culture with rockers, you know what I mean, and bad behavior there. So that is a little bizarre to some folks that we found. And I do have to tell you, Rick, we got a statement from Fox News, and here's what it says. It says, this is nothing more than left-wing outlets stirring up false racism accusations for ratings. It's sad. I've known you for a number of years. You're a straight shooter. We'll be watching you tonight.
Yeah,
8
yeah,
p.m. out in the open.
And like I said, that's the reason we put the call out. And I told Bill yesterday on the phone, and I told him again during our show last night at 8 o'clock, and I'll say it again tonight. The invitation's extended. If he wants to come on and talk about this directly, love to have you, Bill.
Absolutely, and we'll take a call from him right here in the CNN newsroom today, and we'll call you back, Rick Sanchez. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Don.
All righty.